What's up, Commander fans? Back with another video. Now it's official. Dan Quinn is our head coach moving forward. We got him from the Cowboys. He was the defensive coordinator there for the past 3 years. Now, a lot of people or fans are really divided about this pickup because how is this an upgrade for Ron? And quite frankly, he had a similar career to Ron Rivera, but I'm not really knocking it. Now, we were eyeballing Ben Johnson for a minute. It was a lot of reports saying we're moving in on him. He was moving up panels and interviews, but ultimately he ended up staying. Now, I heard reports that Ben Johnson, he wanted to deal with a more experienced quarterback and not a rookie. He was eyeing the Chargers job. And and that's okay. I have nothing against Ben Johnson, but he kind of checks the boxes that a lot of the fans are looking for, such as like a young coach that's offensive minded heavy. I saw a stat that the last coach that won a Super Bowl that was defensive minded was Bill Belichick, and that was 5 or 6 years ago. It's always been offensive minded coach, and we're hoping we're heading that direction. But just to give the owners and the GM some grace, there were several vacant head coach positions this offseason, right? It was New England, Seattle, Tennessee, Atlanta, the Chargers, the Panthers, and kind of the Raiders. They had the intern they ended up promoting. Out of all of those teams, right, we were the last team to make our move for head coaching. And that's something the Commanders would do. I think we kind of dropped the ball when it comes to hiring the head coach. We kind of like procrastinated. I don't know, man. There was a lot of good candidates, and we waited way too long, and we lost good talent. And that, it is what it is. And Dan Quinn was probably the best option left. Now, people are giving him a lot of crap, but let's look at his resume. He was with the Seattle during the Legion of Boom. He was the defensive coordinator, and everybody knows about his infamous run as a head coach for the Falcons. And you can't really bring it up without bringing up the fact that he blew a 28-3 lead. And now, the past 3 or 4 years, he's been the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. And a lot of fans are asking, like, what does this mean? What does this mean for the Commanders? There's still a lot of questions. I know a lot of us are waiting for the press conference, but to be honest, the press conference isn't really going to make a difference because it don't matter what Dan Quinn says in that press conference. We all have the same opinion about this man. Our opinion's not going to change, but we're going to tune in and see what he say. But what it means is that I think our defense, or more importantly, our secondary, is going to be very good. If you look at his resume, every level, every team he's been in, like the secondary's been elite, which is kind of a little different from Ron. Ron, he's been more primary with the whole front seven, but Dan always had a secondary. When he was at Seattle, he had Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor, and then the Falcons, he had Neal, and then in the Cowboys, he had Bland and Trayvon Diggs. Now, I think our secondary might actually be something that we're known for. I think the secondary is going to be something he focuses on. Now, another thing is that I remember when Ron came in, he kind of brought in all of his guys from Panthers. And if you remember back in like 2020 or so, we were called like the Washington Panthers because he brought in all of his guys like Scott Turner and etc. Now, I don't think Dan is gonna bring in a lot of Cowboys dude, but if he does bring in Cowboy guys, he has to bring in Al Harrison, the defensive back coach. I would really like Al Harrison in the Commanders facility. I think that'd be really good for players like Emmanuel Forbes. I think he's gonna really improve the secondary. That's something that's always been his focus. Like, say what you want about Dan Quinn, but he always been a coach that's been able to create turnovers, which, to be honest, we have not had the past couple years. We do not create turnovers. And it's interesting that he came after we got rid of Montez and Chase, but he got cap space. He can sign his guys, and he has a second overall pick. But another thing that people aren't really asking and we still need answers to is who are our coordinators. We finally got a head coach, and that's like a plus. I'll just be optimistic. Just keep your mind open. Just come in with open mindset. Don't be negative about this. Like, this might not be Ron 2.0, and this definitely is not going to be another Arthur Smith. Like, Dan Quinn is a leader. Players say great things about him, like Michael Parsons. Again, Al Harris said wherever Dan goes, he's going to go. That's why I think he might come here, which is, to me, I think it is a plus. You gotta look at this as if it's like, yeah, they're from the Cowboys, but love it or hate it, like, even though they might have been first round exits, they're a solid team. So I'm very optimistic. But the next thing I want to talk about is, like, what about the coordinators? Like, what's gonna happen to Eric Bieniemy, and who's gonna be our defensive coordinator? That's the next thing that we really need to start talking about, because during his run in Atlanta as a head coach, he had Kyle Shanahan, and he was calling the plays, and there was a difference when Kyle Shanahan left. When Kyle Shanahan left, when he left, the team kind of went downhill offensively, after that Super Bowl run, and it was a difference. So I think the offensive coordinator is the next big hire. And it's a question of, are they going to keep Eric Bieniemy? I got to do some researches. I don't even know who's left as offensive coordinator. If you're asking me now at this very second, we might as well just keep Eric Bieniemy as offensive coordinator. I know fans don't like that, but what other options do we have? We kind of, I don't know how this happened because we've been going hard at these coaches and interviews, but we kind of slipped away with these coaches. We might as well keep Eric Bieniemy, and defensive coordinator is just up in the air. That's just my take on it, just to save time on this, but it's whatever. And another thing too is we hired a defensive-minded coach, right? In Dan Quinn. What are we gonna do with the second overall pick? Now, Dan, he knows our team, and he's been scouting us. He knows about Sam. So is he gonna keep Sam Howell, or are we gonna move back a couple picks? I don't know. Like, are we taking a quarterback, or are we moving back? Like, I don't, at this point, I don't know. With Ben Johnson, we would have been taking a quarterback, but with a defensive-minded coach, what is he gonna do? Does he see something in Sam Howell? I don't know. Like, I think it kind of changes things with the draft. Is he gonna try to trade back and get a defensive player as well? And also, speaking of defense, like, I think Dan is gonna address the linebacker issue. I think that's something that Dan always had. He had Bobby Wagner, he had Micah Parson, and Falcons. I don't really know who the linebacker was. The point is, like, I think he's gonna address the linebacker issue, unlike Ron. Ron was really with the front four, and he tried to get Jamin Davis, but he hasn't really pulled up. Who knows? Maybe he could develop Jamin to really step up or so, but I think he's gonna sign some linebackers, and he's definitely get the secondary. I don't think the front four is as important as it was to Ron as it is going to be for Dan. But we'll see. But again, I gotta be very optimistic. We have to put trust in Josh Harrison, this group, and Adam Gates and everything, and hope they know what they're doing. But again, the next big hire, next big question is, who is going to be our offensive coordinator? Because right now, for sure, I do not trust Dan Quinn to calling plays, bro. I don't trust him. I rather have Eric Bieniemy calling plays. And looking at these candidates that's left, there's not a lot of people left to be really qualified to become offensive coordinator for the Commanders. At least Bieniemy's been in the system and he knows the players for over a season. So we'll see what happens. And also with Eric Bieniemy, there's no more vacant head coach positions. So really, where's Eric gonna go? He's not. That's honestly, that's probably why he's still here. He's not gonna go anywhere because there's no more head coach spots left. So he's gonna make another lateral move. That's why I think we're gonna just keep Eric Bieniemy for another year. And I would hope they keep Sam, but I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with the draft now. But that's going to be the next big thing. I might make a video after press conference to see what he say, but it's not really going to change my opinion. We know who Dan Quinn is. During his tenure with the Falcons, he was 43-42, which is very similar to Ron. After the Super Bowl, he finished like 79, which is similar to Ron. That's why I say he has a similar resume to Ron Rivera, really around the 500 mark. It's really cool. I think he's been humbled from going from head coach to defensive coordinator, now back to head coach. And he's really trying to make it really prove something. And it also shows, and one thing I do have to say about Dan is at least he wants to be here. He clearly wants to be here. Some guys, he kind of had to sell it. Maybe Dan's been eyeing this spot because it looks like he didn't hesitate to leave, coming from a team that's been in the playoffs the past 3 years. And also, he knows this division. The Giants is going to struggle against it. The Giants been undefeated against us. Daniel Jones has been down. I don't know why we struggle against the Giants, but you saw what the Cowboys did to the Giants last season. I don't think that's going to fly no more. And Eagles, they go neck and neck. Like the Eagles, Dan does really well defensively against the Eagles. So maybe we'll have a better fight against teams in our division. So that's cool to know as well. But yeah, that's just my quick thoughts about it. I know people are really upset about us getting Dan Quinn, but you got to look at it this way. Again, like New England, Seattle, Tennessee, Atlanta, Chargers, Panthers, and Raiders. Out of all of those teams who had vacant head coach positions, we were the last team to hire a head coach. Did you really expect us to get the cream of the crop? I'll just leave it as that. Tell me what you guys think in the comments down below. As always, hail to the Commanders. I'm out. Be blessed.